Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Ballroom Chat. I'm your host, Samantha, with Love.Live.Dance. Just a quick reminder, if you guys are new here and you are just joining us for your first live stream, welcome. So glad to have you. You can feel free to post any questions or clarifications that you might have as we go along in the chat, and we will get to those at the midpoint in the episode. Also, go ahead and do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We are trying to get to 100 subscribers, so if you have not already, please do make sure that you hit the subscribe button and that you turn on the notification bell so that you get updated anytime that we post or decide to go live. Today I am joined by two amazing guests. They are former national and world professional rhythm finalists, the owners of Dance Daly Ballroom, and the co-organizers with their partner Eddie Stutz of the San Antonio Classic dance sport event. Please help me welcome to the episode Sveta and Jason Daly.
Hey guys.
Hi everyone.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the episode this morning. How are you guys doing?
Of course, we're great.
Yeah, very good.
We're awake.
That's always a good.
Yes, you are California based, correct?
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
9 o'clock here.
So bright and early. I like to start off the episode by asking every guest that I have on how you got started in the dance industry. What actually brought you into ballroom dance?
Oh, wow, very different reasons here.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll start.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I'm from Ukraine, and you do something. There's something else other than school that you have to do. So my parents had to figure out what it is that I was going to be good at. And the first thing that I tried was piano. And I could not sit still. I think I was pretty good at it, but I kind of kept on dancing around. And so they realized that's not it. And my dad randomly was at a bus stop or something, I don't remember, but he saw a big announcement about new ballroom classes. So we went there, and there was, I don't remember because I was 7, you over exaggerate everything in your head. There was a lot of people there. And I was a little nerdy, kind of sitting behind my dad while all of these kids were like dancing around in this waiting room and doing all these things and meeting each other. And I just kind of sat behind him like this. You couldn't even see me. And I remember my dad going, I don't think this is it for us. So got into this huge room. I remember it still. It was big. There was like balconies up there and everything. And I was, of course, at the very back of the room, hiding. Did our little dancing, and it was very like simple. There's some clapping, some step together. The teacher came out to talk to parents, and then she spoke to my dad, and my dad was like, "Yeah, you're right. Probably not the right thing for her." She's like, "No, this is not the right class for her." And she wanted me to move up into a different group. And thanks, Dad, for believing in me. I love you. But it was pretty shocked. But that was it. And I got hooked. And it was, my parents had to keep taking me, half an hour away from home on a bus all the time. And I kept on moving up and was just completely hooked and never looked back.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. Cool. And as soon as I came to America, the first thing we did was find a studio. That was my number one priority. That was it.
When did you make the move from Ukraine to the US?
So it was July of 95. So I was 10, almost 11 years old.
Okay. So still in the youth amateur, still trying to figure this out if you wanted to go with it.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Very fresh. Your story's fine.
My turn. So I started when I was 11 years old. Wasn't really planning to get into dancing whatsoever. I have 3 older brothers, so dancing probably wasn't in their agenda. Basically, I used to play football a lot. So basically, my mom and my stepdad started wanting to learn how to dance. And I was too young, so I was dragged along. And I thought it would actually be funny because my family has this thing about making fun of each other. So my stepdad's a little bit on the chubby side. So I thought it'd be absolutely funny to go watch him kind of wobble around a bit. So I actually went. And And I was laughing at him while he was dancing, and then the teacher asked me to give it a go if I think it's so easy.
Mhm.
So I got up in a group class and I didn't know my left from my right. I struggled with it. And so kind of like egg on my face. And then we went home. I didn't think anything about it. I thought it was done. And then my mom, the next week, just goes to me, "Are you going to come again?" And I said, "No, mom, I'll just stay with my brothers." And she was like, "No, you should come. I think it would be good for you. I have a good feeling about it." So then I went and I started getting more into it. And then within about 3 months, they told my mom that they need to send me to a different school because I outgrew that school within 3 months. So then I was sent to school in Wednesbury, which is in Middle England. And the owners of the studio was John and John Knight. So I was very fortunate to go into that school where people like Donnie Burns and Sammy Stockford, Richard Porter would take lessons before or after me, which is kind of scary when you're brand new. So
Great start.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I was very lucky with the start that I got. So I'm very fortunate that the teachers moved me on and didn't keep me within their school. So that was very, very fortunate. So
Yeah, I know that must have been intimidating being around, the greats of our industry. But do you feel like being in that environment really pushed you to continue and use it as an opportunity to learn even more about the sport than you would have otherwise if you hadn't been in that environment?
it inspired me. I remember like John always calling my mum on the house phone saying, "Hey, we have, so and so couple coming in. Send Jason down." So I get on the bus and go down, and then watch the couples practice. So it was really inspiring to see their lessons and also watch them practice. So definitely being around that definitely helped a lot to keep me inspired because I could see where it was going and not just the group classes that I was in. So the bigger picture was definitely very important. So
Meanwhile, I had to beg my parents to buy me the video cassette of $100 for Blackpool so I could try to memorize their routines and watch it over and over again. You got to watch in the studio.
pretty much. Well, unfortunately, you
That's
don't
great.
feel until you don't realize how fortunate you are until you talk to the other European couples. England at the time had all the great couples, so you don't realize how lucky you are to see these couples. So
Take it for granted, right?
you do take it for granted. So
Yeah, when I had Marjana and Slavik on 2 weeks ago, they mentioned the fact that for them, a lot of their lessons were they would have to fly to England, take a lesson for that weekend, and then fly back, and then they wouldn't have coaching for several weeks until they could save up enough money to then fly back to England. So growing up in that environment must have just been absolutely amazing. At what point for both of you did it go from we're learning ballroom dance, either international standard or international Latin, to, okay, no, we really want to focus on American rhythm?
A completely different story, isn't it? So for me, I never thought of dancing as my career. This was a passion. So it was something that kept me stay out of trouble. While my friends went out on Friday night, I had rounds at the studio. So that was just the life. And I loved it and it was great. And I wanted to go as high as possible, but never really I know most people say, "Oh, I always wanted to be a world champion." That was never in my mind. I went to school, and my passion or my hope was to be a school teacher. So that's what I was studying for, and I loved it. And when I first moved to LA, I remember I came to dance with someone, and I got a job through friends, and I was very from Leah's parents, but I got a job at a private school, and I was in charge of like preschool and kindergarten and even sometimes first grade, doing little things. But I was a TA, and I was there from 6:30 in the morning till about 6:30 at night, not being able to make rent on my tiny little studio apartment in a pretty bad neighborhood. So my coach then got me a job in Orange County teaching dance. And so when I did Latin pretty much my whole life. I did stand up when I was younger. Um, and I thought I was kind of retired, somewhat still dancing, maybe putting my feet into it. So my coach was kept on pushing me, Victor Kanevsky. Thank you, Victor. So he got me a job in Orange County, and I met great people. The studio doesn't exist anymore, but one of my closest friends there was Chris Sawachian, who just opened a studio in Orange County. Congratulations. And he was doing American Rhythm. That was the first time I ever saw American Rhythm. And I kept on going to cheer for him. His partnership fell apart. We did a show together for a studio. There was all these things. And so I was like, this could be fun. So we started dancing together. Being a Ukrainian, I didn't know what fun was, so I got a little competitive. Drove him crazy as well, I'm sure. And just fell into it. And my first American Rhythm and my first professional competition was with him, with Chris. So that's how I fell into it and never left. That was it. I was hooked. And I realized that I had to stay with dancing, and I love teaching. Any kind of teaching would do. So I started teaching dancing and got really, really into it. Couldn't imagine it without it now. So that was it. Your turn.
My turn. Again, a little bit, wasn't really planning in getting into American style rhythm. It was basically, we were running a studio. I was a part owner at London with Patricia West at one point. And basically we had a staff member who was getting into American rhythm. So I decided to start practicing with her name was Bonnie. And so I started practicing with her. And over time, I started actually getting more my competitive self, because I had retired from Latin about 2 years earlier, where I had to start a family and stuff like that. So basically, I started practicing, and again, the English part of me that was bred into me started coming out.
He was very competitive because I had to be in the same studio as him, and that he loved to intimidate me.
Pretty much.
So yes, I saw that competitive side firsthand.
Yeah. So then California Open was my first open rhythm competition with Bonnie. We danced together until June, and then that's when we split, and that's when we started looking for new partners, and I ended up with this one. So
I'm sorry.
there you go. I know.
That was it.
Well, clearly it worked out for the best that you guys ended up together.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. I like the fact that both of you mentioned that you were already teaching before you started your professional career in American Rhythm. And that's something that I kind of want to ask your opinion on. Do you think that there's a difference between dancers that are successful, that win titles, that then go on to teach and coach, or people that enjoy the process of teaching that happen to excel and learn dance at a very high level? Do you think there's a difference in how those two groups of individuals approach either the sport itself or teaching itself?
That's a really good question. I mean, I started teaching when I was 16. It was like a side thing to make enough money for my private lessons. But I was teaching Latin. But I think when you're teaching, you're learning stuff about yourself. And I know everyone says this, and I never understood that until I retired. That's, again, you hear it, you go, oh, great, that's great, until you actually experience it. I think I've gotten like a lot better once I retired and just focused on teaching. You learn so much about yourself and what you want to see, especially judging. I think that really taught me a lot too. But teaching is definitely a big thing. So when I'm teaching now professional couples, I tell them, work on this with your students. When you're teaching it, when you're explaining it in words, and when you have to try to get someone else to feel that, your body finds new things. So it's okay to just hear it and do it. And as kids, I mean, honestly, you tell us to do something, we just do it. It's all mechanical and just go for it. But especially as a professional, you want to see that the person really understands their body. and you understand the body and how everything fits, and you question things a lot as you're teaching. So I think teaching is very important, very much so. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, one of my dance dad, Paul Beaton, basically when I was growing up with him, he would always, when he would explain something to the girl, he would always say to me, "You have to listen because one day you're going to be teaching it." So he installed that kind of into me from age 16 onwards. He was very big on I had to listen to see what the girl's part was instead of just involved in the male part and what I need to do. So and vice versa, he would say to my partner, you have to listen to what he needs to do because one day you're going to be teaching it. So he was already like kind of preparing us. Within England, as an amateur, you're not allowed to teach. So my first teaching job was actually when I moved to America, when I actually turned professional flying to America. So, but like in England, when you're an amateur, you have to have a regular job. So you work a regular 9 to 5 job, and then you go practice in the evening. And so it's your whole day is spent by working and practicing. Then you turn professional, and then you start pass your exams, and you have to start teaching. But I do think learning the trade is very important, and I do think what I do see sometimes is the coaches who are just dancers, they turn coaches when they haven't done pro-am. It's very hard for them to understand pro-am. So I think treading the boards, doing pro-am, being a successful dancer, becoming a judge is really important because you're then well-rounded. Whereas I do see some coaches who just never done pro-am, so they have a different idea about it. So I think they struggle a little bit to understand what the teacher's trying to up against in the sense of how they're going to get a beginner to look good and what they want them to be in the future. So it's a little bit challenging.
Well, I think it's also a big difference between teaching kids and teaching adults. And I find that very fascinating.
Yeah.
We just had a conversation about this with someone, but again, like I said, with kids, you put them into this and they just do it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're teaching our kids right now. We can't teach them. We have to give them to someone else to learn. But I don't want to listen to mom and dad. But their bodies are able to just do anything you ask them for. They're like little robots sometimes, and that's what we see on the floor sometimes too. And that's okay. They can't find their personality until they develop it.
Okay.
Whereas when you're teaching adults from the beginning, these people, successful people, right, that probably went to college, they've had their whole big life before them, they've learned a trade. I mean, we have so many doctors and attorneys and
real estate.
do you remember there was a student that was an actual brain surgeon,
Yeah.
and I thought that dancing was the hardest thing she's ever had to do. You remember Karen, right?
Yeah.
But they learn a certain way. They already learn a trade. And so for us to teach them something new is very different because it's more on an intellectual level.
Mm-hmm.
It's not physical. So we have to find a way to explain it to them intellectually.
Mm-hmm.
We can't show it and for them to copy it. So it's really, really cool. So learning how to teach adults from the very beginning, I think to me is most fascinating, and not injuring them. That's a big one.
Yes. Yeah. I think you keyed in on something really important there, which is if you're working with adults, it has to be on an intellectual level. Adults aren't going to just pop into a spot and be like, okay, I'm here. They're going to ask, well, why am I there? What is it? What is this doing? How do I get from foot 1 to foot 2? Okay, now where am I looking? Where is my hand going? Whereas with a kid, you're just like, okay, hit this line. And they're like, okay, I got this. It's like,
they stand behind you and they just do it perfectly.
Exactly.
But see, I love why I always when I have, even with pro couples, when they're staying quiet and they just kind of do what they're told, I said, ask me why. I want you to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to make me think about it too. And so it makes me a better teacher and a dancer. If you ask me questions, I start developing as well. It's really interesting. I enjoy teaching pro-am a lot. Yeah.
One of my coaches used to always say, you have to always ask what, why, and how.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't, and so if the teacher can't answer those questions, you have to then, see what you need to do, why you need to do it, and how you need to do it. And you have to cover those 3 grounds. And remember, a lot of the adults that we teach, their muscles are not made the way we were, because unfortunately we started at a young age where our muscles are growing. So fortunately, yeah, and we're molded into this stuff. So I remember teaching when I first moved to America and started teaching. I remember having to kind of go back in my head from when I was kind of a young 11 years old and try and remember some of those lessons that I got taught. And so it was very important, where sometimes we focus on what we're doing now and we try and put that onto our students, not realizing they're missing so many layers of dancing that they're not going to do it. So it's definitely a slow process, because it's taken us years to perfect it. So I don't know why it would be so quick for others.
Well, also you have to remember that people that had a big chunk of their life not dancing, they got used to certain things. Like right now, we're sitting up talking to you, right? I'm at the edge of my seat right now, instead of being back here.
Yep.
Right. But typically, if you were at a keyboard, you would be sitting like this. And I lie down when I'm driving, really, like that.
Yeah.
It's because you're from Disco, she's gangster.
Yeah, that's what it is. But you know, I just have long arms. I don't know. But there's all these things that we do to our bodies that become natural. And so the certain way that we stand, the back of our feet with the ribcage set back, we have to now undo all of that. Whereas with a child, you don't. They don't have those things yet. We teach them how to sit down properly.
Yep. I don't know how many times in the last several years of teaching I've called my mother, who's a physical therapist, and gone, okay, I'm working with a guy. He walks like a guy. His weight is on the outside pinky toe, back of the heel. He's not bringing his feet to close together. So what exercises do you have in your toolbox that I can give to him to get him to be on the center of the foot, inside edge when we're doing rhythm or Latin, and for him to bring his feet to brush together? Because the gait of most of my older gentlemen is wider and externally rotated. That's never something that when I was going through learning in a collegiate program that we ever talked about. That's not something that we had to worry about, because most of us had either a dance background in ballet, tap, or jazz from a younger age, where we already knew what first position was and we knew how to hold our core in. So yeah, I think the lessons that you have to tailor for older individuals and adults are very different with the ones that you have to do from a youth program.
Don't you feel like right now, because you had to figure out how to teach them, you just became such
more
much better?
Yeah.
I don't know if she's gonna love it or hate it that I say this. There was one particular student that made me rethink the way I teach. Kay Burton.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kay, for doing this to you. But Kay has a huge knowledge of body. This is what really interests her. She does dirt tonic. She does all these different things. She even came with me to get certified on Love.Live.Dance like 4 years ago. But she enjoys learning about body, and she understands how different muscles, different muscle groups connect together. So she always asked me questions and why and this and that. And I had to really figure it out. So talking to her about stuff and kind of learning on her, I think made me a better teacher. So that was really fun. Still ask me why every time, and I love it, because like the one person that will always, you know, in the group class, I'll always say, any questions? And I look at Kay and I wait for it, because she asks me the best questions, which make me a better teacher. I love it. That gets me to open up my mind and realize my body works differently than someone else's. How can I teach them what I do? They can't do what I do because their body structure is different. What can I do for them?
I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I think like a good analogy, like just to tag on to Sveta, is like thinking that everyone has locks on their bodies and that you've got a bunch of keys, and your job is to try and find the right key to unlock it. And I think sometimes, you know, you say one thing and it doesn't work, so you go throw that key away and then try a new key, instead of saying this is how it is, and if you don't know it, then you can't dance. I think that's the wrong direction to go. I think there's, you know, asking your students in the beginning as well if they have any ailments, whether they have a hip, you know, new hip or shoulder or compressed disc. I think these are all things that you need to take in consideration. I remember having a student who, awesome student. She had, bless her soul, had cancer. She was dancing on one lung. She had cancer in her leg. She was like always placing top 3 in the open
She's
senior
amazing.
river. And I
The
remember,
happiest person ever. She's so positive. She's like, oh, it's okay. I just want to get back to dancing.
and I remember being at a competition and I had someone come up to me and go, she gets out of breath pretty easy. And I was like, you probably would if you had one lung. And they were like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I know you, but you never know,
She started dancing within like 2 months
Yeah.
after surgery.
Yeah.
And it was her lessons. They would do like 5 seconds. No, not even. They would do a few seconds of just moving around. Then she would sit down and relax a little bit. And then a few more seconds. So it was building up. But literally a few months later, she was dancing open rhythm and kicking butt. She was amazing.
She was, yeah. She is, Darlene. Her name is Darlene Bloom.
In Bloom, we love you. But so she moved now. We don't get to see her very often. She's up north with her family, which is great for her. But she's inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
And just different way of teaching someone and, finding out what people's strengths are and what they can do. I think that's the main thing.
They make us better.
Yeah, definitely.
They make us the teachers that we are, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, if it was
So taking that experience coaching pro-am and coaching adults and knowing what folks are struggling with, what the challenges are with adults, when you're now judging or adjudicating pro-am competitions, do you feel like you or I as coaches is drawn to, okay, I wonder if, when you're watching people on the floor, or do you try to take all assumptions about what people's kind of learning curve has been out of the picture and just see what is it that's in front of me on the dance floor?
That is a really good question. You don't have time to think about that. You don't have time to analyze what's happening. And sometimes, if there's like one couple on the floor, I do start coaching in my head. That's a big thing that I do. I start trying, okay, so she needs to do this. But no, you don't. It's best not to, of course, as well. Especially here in California, because we're based in California, when we have competitions here, it's like most students on the floor. You've seen them year after year. You've either coached them or their teachers, or you have to just erase all of that. So you come out with an open mind, and you literally people have to realize we can't stand and watch the dancing. It's not a show. You're comparing. So you don't compare their life stories, because absolutely every person on the floor has a life story. They've had a car accident. They've had a heart attack. They've had, there's things there, or someone didn't have anything happen to them. Someone was a professional ballet dancer. Unfortunately, they're all in the same heat. And you just have to pick out who you find best at that time. And so it's interesting. And I've had people go, well, did you know that this person had this and this happened? Unfortunately, there's nothing. We have a student. We're opening all of their secrets. I hope you guys are okay with that. Maybe we should sign a waiver. We have a student who places very well and who competes a lot. She's actually taking a break right now to have a surgery. So she'll be off for 6 months. But this wonderful girl, when she was 18 years old, the family found out she sleepwalks. And she walked out of a second story
building.
And landed like a cat. She landed on her feet. So that means both of her ankles and her spine. So the fact that she could even walk. But now, 4 kids later, beautiful career and jobs and all that stuff and a whole big life, she is now dancing at an open rhythm, highest level, and
making finals
and and she's, but and people go, oh well, her feet are not exactly, dude, you can't possibly tell everyone what has happened to her. And it wouldn't be fair. And she would not want it. That's why I'm not even going to mention name. Mm-hmm. But she would not want you to know what happened to her or what the struggles are, because she wants to go against the ballet dancer and win. So they don't want you to feel bad about their story. They don't want you to know it. They compare them to the person that's next to them. Hopefully they're in a correct division. Other than that, they don't ask for excuses. They
Yeah.
don't want excuses. They want to do their best. That's their goal. And we have to also remember, I think we forget as well as teachers, this is not their career.
No.
This passion for them. This is
Hobby.
different roles,
Yeah.
hobby, but also like a skill that they want to learn. A lot of them are competitive and they haven't been able to compete in anything in their life, so this is how they bring it out. All kinds of different reasons. None of them are to be a professional dancer, so they're just doing their best, and we have more goals for them sometimes as far as placement than they do. They just want to dance well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard, especially when you know them. And again, every judge could tell you this. We see people every competition. You can't possibly erase the fact that you know who they are or have seen them.
Mm.
All you can do is compare one to the other at that moment, to that melody, with that partner. It doesn't matter on that floor. You just have to stay in the moment.
It's good to hear a judge say that, because some of the feedback that I've gotten when I was competing as an amateur in Pro-Am and then now as a pro with my students, is there are quick assumptions that are made about where the expectation level is for couples as soon as they walk on the floor. So if you have someone that, I have a student that is very muscular, he's very athletic, but we're still working on a lot. We're bridging bronze to silver. So he's got some work to do. But because he has the physique of someone that can move their body, the feedback has been, well, as a judge, I watched him walk on the floor and assumed that he was going to be full silver, and then realized that he was dancing pre-silver and was kind of let down by the fact that he wasn't dancing at the level I expected him to be. So it's good to hear that at least when you're on the floor judging, that you're trying to just wipe the slate clean and look at what is on the floor in front of you.
As a judge, you learn a lot too with every competition. When I first started judging, actually, I had my first judging job and then I took a break because I found out I was pregnant right after the competition, literally the day after I came back. But when I first came out on the floor, I thought I knew what I was looking for. Like I had in my mind, this is what I want to see from this style. And this, you don't know. You really don't know. You have to come out with an open mind and see what's out there and compare one to the other. And it's like elimination games, especially when you have, a few rounds and you do pick on them a little bit because you have to find the best. So you don't go, oh, that's lovely. That's really nice. You can't get lost in that. And sometimes, you have to, right? Because they're so great. But you have to watch everyone else and kind of pick out. And every competition, I think that I judge, I change my mindset a little bit. So I know what I've done lately, and I do that with pros a lot, is, you have to sign your sheet. I don't know if people know this. We don't make little, stack figures or anything like that. We don't draw around. You have to sign, you have to put the right stuff on the sheet. And I like to do that not at the end, but in the beginning. So instead of watching people set up and already prejudge them, like you said, I try to do my sheets first and then let them start dancing. If you have too many couples on the floor, you don't have time to do that. But I like to do that. So I look down, I do my sheets, I come up, they start dancing, and then I could start figuring it out. Because someone could be really good on top and set up with this beautiful arms, and there's all this feelings. If they had some kind of theater background, they're amazing, right? And they know how to point their foot just right, and they start dancing, and there's no basic there. Whereas someone is very shy and they're a little nervous, but then they do this beautiful box step. I want to say that I want to pick that one, but you never know. You never know what you're going to see at that moment. we're still learning. You know, it doesn't matter how many years you judge. I think we're still gonna keep learning from one to the other. Yeah, it's always gonna be slightly different.
So with that, with kind of training your eye based on what's on the floor in front of you, and then as well as what you kind of expect at certain levels to see the dancing at. With American Rhythm in particular, I view it as the dance that hasn't quite solidified yet. There's still some ever-changing flow and ebb to what is on the floor, what people are coaching, what folks are winning. Where do you find yourselves falling on the harsh Cuban action or soft Latin leg action debate? And where do you see the style developing over the next couple of years?
That's a loaded question, huh?
you can dodge it if you want. You can avoid weighing in on that debate.
No, that's a very good question. It's very interesting. I think our dancing went through many changes when we were competing. When we first started, again, so he had 5, 6 rhythm competitions behind him. Yeah. I had 1. You know, we were both pretty new to the style. So when we danced together, we were still a Latin couple trying to do rhythm. And as upset as I was in the beginning for not making the final immediately, and like some coaches told us that we would, they made our expectation high, and I thanked them for it because they made me fight for it. But now that I watch the videos, like, oh, I wouldn't mark that.
No, swing was too fast.
Swing was jumpy and too fast, and ended up looking slow because we weren't sure about the actions. My bolero was popping up all the time. You know, cha-cha was ridiculous. I was very high.
Yeah, over choreographs.
Yeah, we put everything in there. There were so many tricks because we didn't know what we were doing. So we made all those mistakes. And so going back, and you know, of course, you don't make the final. You go, oh, it's politics. Yeah, it's definitely politics. Absolutely, no one cares. No one knew who we were yet. No. I mean, it wasn't that. But I understand, and it wasn't musical. So when I watch that now, I understand that that's not what we would want to see if we were watching dancing. The whole soft knee, straight knee situation, the hip action, it has to fit the style, it has to fit the music, it has to fill out the room. We also have to remember that at least 4 out of the 5 dances are very stationary and rounded. Yes, we don't. So bolero travels ish. Still not traveling around the floor, but it has a bigger movement. But all the other dances are very compact. So if you're popping up on a straight knee and you're waiting for, you know, through the slow on bolero, I missed all the action. If in the rumba you get on that straight knee, there's so much more action. And rhythm doesn't come from legs. Rhythm comes from the center of your body. So if you're, what I find now, I think, and again, I still love Latin. I'm not saying, oh, now, you know, I'm not going rhythm to Latin. Love all styles. Love smooth. I think smooth is actually my favorite to watch at the moment. But I think Latin is more about lines, strong lines from one to another and action to each other. Rhythm is constant movement. Yeah, so even in swing, I want to see those rips move. I want to see the body actions through the music. So I think that's why the soft knee. It's not about bending and like digging into the floor with your rib. It's a soft knee, so you have more time and more space to move your body around. So it's not a strict this or that ish, but yeah, so like the delayed action back was a big difference for me. Yeah. Even though we always know in Latin it's still a delayed action when you go back, just that going through that check-in action, and that was Sam Sedano and Bill Sparks. We actually never took a lesson with Sam Sedano. No. Everyone always thought we did, and I wish we did.
Well, how do we work with Bill?
We couldn't travel very much. No. We couldn't travel as much as we wanted to when we were competing. But we worked with Bill, and we learned this whole check-in action to the back, and it made sense through the ribs and how you connect to the partner. And so all the pieces kind of came together. Linda Dean was our main coach through our rhythm career. Yeah. And so she was all about movement in your body. It wasn't about legs so much. So legs are the tool to help you create that rhythm. It's not just about the legs. You have to have beautiful legs and feet to help the rest of the body, I think.
Definitely. And like for a good way of international couples transitioning into rhythm is look at samba. It's the easiest way to go, because when you see a rhythmical body in samba, it's through soft knees. It's not through straight knees. So I think understanding cruzado walk is closer to American action, and really is a Cuban action, as the ankle, the knee, and the hip arrive at the same time, which does create the Cuban action, where when you think of Latin, it's more, to me, when they say Cuban action, it's more of a hip action. You see the leg strike and then the hip move later. So I think it's distinguishing when certain joints hit and when delays happen. A delayed action from the back leg will create a Cuban action from the front, just because the ankle, knee, and hip arrive at the same time. So I think that's, to me, the difference in a little bit, and how I've analyzed it. The thing that
You have to see the beauty in those styles. They have to be different.
Another thing that helped us a lot was we're Latin trained, and so what our philosophies are and our views, we had to learn to put them to the side to start with. Okay, so we said to each other, when we hit this wall of what do we do in American rhythm, we've heard so many bend the knee, straighten the leg,
It's either quit
or quit,
or get over what we're doing.
or quit or move on.
Yeah.
We said to each other, what did we do as kids? We basically got told, do this, we didn't question it in the beginning. So we decided to go with all the American rhythm judges, coaches like me, and basically whatever she said in the beginning, we just did it. And we didn't let our international background try and question it until we had that under wraps of this is what they're asking. And then we learned to put back in the qualities of what we had from the international Latin back into our rhythm. So we kind of took it away.
Training is training. I think just regular knowledge of just how to move from foot to foot, how to use your ribs, how to use your hips, where the hip action comes from. None of that is rhythm or Latin. It's just dancing. How to use your lats, how to open up your arm, how to rotate through the head or whatever it is. So that's just knowledge.
Yeah.
And people shouldn't just let go of it and completely do differently in a different style. So knowledge of dancing is one thing. And then understanding what the style is about. What do you have time for? How does your body move? How do you have to connect? What the actual dance, how do I say it, the atmosphere that you have to create for the dance. We do have two slow dances in American rhythm. How do you make that different? What's the difference between a sensual rumba that's more through your hips or a romantic bolero that's more on top and open? You have to see those differences. And if you put in a lot of tricks in there, I don't see the difference. So that's another thing. I think that's what we did. If we don't know what to do, let's just throw tricks at it.
Yeah.
As a judge now, I tend to look away on tricks and then hope that they will be a basic later on when I look back. Because I can't possibly judge the tricks. It's not a show number.
They don't actually belong with those dances, because you can do them in every dance. So they actually, to us, they don't actually belong. A trick is a trick. You could do it in smooth, you could do it in Latin, you could do it. Can't do it in standard. That's the only one. But you try. But you can do it in Latin as well. So they actually don't belong, really. They're just things that create dynamical changes.
It's fun. It gets your eye, and again, it is. You are performing in front of the audience. Actually, Linda said this to us a long time ago, and I loved it.
Yeah.
She said, it doesn't matter how small the competition. You might not even have anyone else on the floor, or might think, oh, I got this. You can't walk through a competition because the people in the audience paid good money to come and watch you. And that said, and for me,
100% every time.
That was a very good point. It's not about you. It's about the people that you're performing in front of. So you have to give them 100%. That was really good. But so you do want to give them a little something, yeah. But a great basic, a great just action is what they're looking for. We have to also remember that the audience is possibly, beginner dancers, someone that's looking for something. And when our students say, "Oh yeah, I watched, but I didn't recognize the dance," that is not a good sign.
Yeah.
You want rumba walks and they're around the partner. You want to see the crossovers. You want to see
Definitely.
basic things in there. You crossbody leads. Oh, the students would love it.
The dance showcases, the dance showcases that I remember the most, early career when I was doing collegiate, and I was at Ohio Star Ball and I was watching the professional showcase. The couples that I remember performing were the ones that I was like, oh, I know that pattern. Oh, I know how to do that. Oh, that's really cool how they decided to do that. It's the basics that I think new students latch onto, and the rest is just like, oh, that's really cool, but I'll never be able to do that.
They're tricks. Everyone could do them. That's the thing. Everyone could do them. Jason has a student. I'm not going to say the age, but let me tell you, she does not look her age. She only does shows, and I help to choreograph, and I tell her what the trick will be, but I will never do it because I'm scared of heights. I am not going up there. So I cannot do what she could do, but he does all this crazy tricks and throws her around. They're tricks. You could learn how to do them. A good dance base is what's difficult. My coaches early on in San Francisco when I first moved to America were Olga and Dima Sukachev, and they did an Ohio show number where just rumba basic.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely beautiful. I remember watching them work on it in the studio and putting it together, and that made me fall in love with just dancing.
And they didn't even use their arms. Their arms are next to the sides, and it's all about.
Didn't they have like a?
Can't remember.
They had like masks on their faces, so there was no emotion. It was just good actions, and it was gorgeous. I mean, everything else is a part of dancing, of course, but that I remember that show just spoke to me because I realized it could be beautiful.
Going back a little bit when you're talking about with the teachers and tricks and basics. So when you're teaching, if we're telling our students, you should learn the bronze, the silver, the gold, and then when you then go and compete, you do none of it. You're not. Then why would a student want to do that? So I think it's really important that teachers put steps in that they do from the syllabus. It's like Latin, it has a fan, it has an alemana. It's just basic things that definitely go in. I think with American style, those things need to go in too. So then your audience, which is your target audience, you want to be fans, can actually, understand it as well. Not go, I can never do that, and that's why they're professional. No, look, they did a basic, So I think that's where the international, to me, sometimes, what should I say? Can help, because you can see a feather step, you can see a fall away, and then
no one's going to keep that out of the routine.
They're not going to keep it out of the routine. So I think with the American rhythm and smooth, definitely having those steps in there definitely will help.
They're beautiful steps.
Help as well.
My favorite part of our rumba was the walks around.
Yeah, those circular walks and the double turns.
I love it. Silver.
Silver step, yeah.
That was silver, and I loved it. But
and then it goes on to the quality of your dancing, then, not just and I think that's what the level is. It's not about the steps. It's about the level of you being of a dancer that can make a basic step stop the room. And I think that's what I've always been drawn to.
Yeah, I do have to say something though. I said this to one of the pro couples, I think a few weeks ago. If I'm walking by, let's say, a practice room or in a studio, and I see a couple practicing without music, I should know what dance they're doing.
Yes.
If I can't recognize dance until I hear the music, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You should be able to tell what dance and what style they're doing. And if they're doing a cha-cha, is it American cha-cha or Latin cha-cha? I should be able to see that difference. So that's a big one for me. When you're not sure, and I've seen, this was actually quite recent. I was judging a competition in the Midwest, and there was a few couples. It's not just one couple. It's like a new thing that arrived where they were doing both Latin and rhythm at the same competition. And it was rising star couples. I think it was like 3 out of that final that did both Latin and rhythm. on the same night because it was all rising stars on the same night, and some of their routines were the same.
They just switched it. So
Ooh.
Watch, and that's okay, I guess. If you dance them differently, maybe then maybe I wouldn't recognize it. Ish, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure. I kept on watching. That was the first time I've seen that, and I was like, oh, I saw that earlier today from your Latin. And now you're doing that in rhythm. And now in Bolero, you're just softening the knee sometimes when you go back. But that's not international rumba. It's very different dances, very different character. So I do truly believe that that needs to change.
Well, and I kind of understand that on a pro-am level. If you have students that are dancing 20 dances and you need 20 different routines, okay, well, maybe your American waltz and your international waltz are 90% similar, but we're going to break hold in American waltz just for ease of teaching your new students routines and getting them out on the dance floor the first time. But high level amateur and high level professional, I would almost find that disrespectful. Like, you aren't giving the credit to the dance style that you're in when you're in that dance style. As you said, there's a huge difference between international rumba and American bolero, and to treat those two as identical is kind of missing the point in my mind.
Oh yeah, there were some top couples that did that when they first transitioned, and they stayed in the pretty much the same routine. I remember I had to put that in dance beat, but it was very very similar. You have to just kind of move on, and if you're doing two styles, that's fine, if that's what you want to do, but treat them as two different styles. If you were doing 10 dance, you wouldn't dance your Latin the same as standard.
Right.
So, but honestly, even with students, I think that it's important to teach them the difference immediately. So I'm going to be the bad guy to say this, but if you have to think about them remembering all the routines, then maybe they shouldn't be doing all the styles.
Mm.
Maybe not with one, just to get more entries is just not worth it, because you want them to have the correct start
and a good experience.
Yeah, so it's not about that one competition where you're going to get a lot of entries. It's about them having the longevity and learning the differences between the dances. And so we're teachers. It's a dance school. Yeah, so big difference between if they want to go to a party. Let's say a student comes to a studio, and the first thing we want to know is what their goals are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be able to go to a party, and they say, oh, I just want to learn salsa. But if you're going to be at a party, you want to know as many dances as possible,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you don't want to sit around waiting. You teach them 2 to 3 steps in each dance so they could just be able to dance around the whole night. If they want to compete, you explain to them the different styles and what that's like, and then it's a whole different story. Then you say, okay, well, now we need to work on the quality. Competitive dance is very different than social dance.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't dance socially like this. So there's a difference, and it's up to us to explain to them, and they want us to do that. If I went to a doctor and they would let me do whatever I think is right, that wouldn't be beneficial. So I think it's up to us to explain that to them and wait it out. And
their goals will change.
The goals will change, and then you have a student for many years that does well. I think both of us have students that have been with us for a long time.
And they didn't start where they are now is not what they wrote on their sheet in the beginning.
That wasn't their goal.
That wasn't their goal.
No one's goal is to compete at a high level at a dance competition when they first come into the studio. No one.
And they're like
meaning adults.
Yeah, they're like Moby Dick.
Yeah.
It doesn't really happen. No, it's one white whale that comes in, and that's it. Generally doesn't happen,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's up to us to educate them about it and set their goals with them and show them where they could go from there. But
and also,
we have to teach them the different styles right away. We have to teach them the difference. We have to let them know why they're doing this and why they're doing that and how that's different immediately, because we're setting up a tone for the rest of their dance career.
And slowly, they don't have to be put straight into a competition, because it can be overwhelming. And I think there's plenty of studio events that you do with team matches, showcases, evaluations, male tests. There's plenty of that to gear them up before you even put them in a competition, because I've seen a lot of students who get pushed into it and then they quit straight away.
They burn out.
You know, so I think it's important. There is a lot of things in the studio to build them up first before you put them in. Or with the competitions, which we've had great success with, is basically put them into the nightclub dances on a Thursday night,
fun.
where you do, you know, bachatas and you do salsas. So they kind of see what the competition is like. They get a small taster of it. They can come the next day and see more, you know, the extreme of what it turns into. But at least that way they're slowly getting into it. So I really do like the nightclub nights, because I think it bridges the gap from your studio student transitioning into a competitive student in the future.
And they get to dress up. I think especially for women, this is a big stress. They get to dress up and have that whole night out with makeup and hair, but not professionally done hair and makeup.
Not breaking the
that sometimes stresses you a little bit. No, it's not even that. It's not breaking the bank. Well, you don't have to do that.
10 minutes.
It's the stress of waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and have somebody else do your hair and makeup, and then you're locked into this look. And
but it's also very final. You know that this is something very important when you get into that dress and when you do that makeup and hair. Whereas you try, you know, to still dress up and have a great time on a dance floor with social dancing. I think that's the best idea. I love competitions that do that.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah,
that's very good.
Yeah.
What's the idea with students when you're talking about how, you know, pre-existing ideas of your student when they walk onto the floor, you know, also costuming is important. So I was always taught you dress your level. So I do see a lot of couples who don't dress their level. So I think, you know, regarding their dresses, they're overdone, like they buy a professional dress from a competitor.
There's no newcomer that needs to buy a dress for $6,000.
No. You need to dress them to their level, so that way they reflect, and also the teacher also dance them to their level. So I think it's definitely a package that needs to be looked at. So when you're on the floor, they do look bronze, they dress like bronze, and that way it would actually clean, and they dress their level. Because sometimes the dress can actually, or the male costume can actually overwhelm their dancing. So I think, you know, just a little tip that I think people should look at.
Oh, definitely. So, I think newcomers, like we had a student that came out in just a beautiful black practice dress with jewelry, and it was gorgeous. It was awesome. So nice. And you know what? It caught people's eye because it was different.
It was the opposite.
She was a newcomer. Why would she have all this stuff on her? It's longevity as well. She knows that she will get there someday. It wasn't like one competition bucket list sort of thing. It was a longevity. She wanted to continue through it. And I thought that was great. That was a fantastic.
Kind of earning your belts in, you know, you earn the dress. You don't get the dress.
Yeah, because sometimes it distracts.
So you are now my favorite judges and adjudicators to talk to. I do want to get very quickly to your competition. I want to give that a plug at the very end here. But just as a quick side note, when I went from collegiate into my first Pro-Am competition, I was learning to teach, but was not yet teaching full out. So I was still competing as an amateur. Went on the floor in, believe it was closed syllabus bronze, or I might have been moving to silver. I might have been doing both at the same time. But I had a very simple practice dress that we had put a bunch of AB crystals on just to give it a little bit of glitz and glamour. Went out, danced. I think I placed 3 out of 3 in my scholarship event and 5 or 6 out of 5 or 6 in my championship event. So last place on the podium. I can't remember if it was a judge at the time or another coach, but somebody pulled me aside and said, if you go out there and buy a $5,000 dress and get somebody to do your hair and makeup and come back on this floor, you'll win. But you're never going to win looking like that. And that was crushing. Recent college grad, broke out of my mind. The $2,000 that I spent on entry fees and coaching to get to that competition was all I had in my bank account. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is not the sport that I signed up for. So to hear you guys say that you want to see folks that are dressing their level in Pro-Am and not coming out looking like professional dancers if they're not professional dancers is so positive. And I hope folks listen to that and take it to heart.
Yeah, as we say, mutton dressed up as lamb, you have to do your style. My mom used to make my costumes, by the way.
My mom used to make my costumes.
My mom used to make my shirts. I would get my pants done, but my mom would make my shirts.
My mom made all of my dresses till I was youth. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's upsetting because also it's not just that, but I would want to think this is where I want the dancing to go. Right now, it's kind of a hard time. We're talking like this. Nothing is happening right now. This is talking about competitions. They're not even happening, and the world is going to change, and we know this. But I would like to think that ballroom is going to become available for everyone, not just those who can afford it. I feel like we need to make this available for anyone that wants to do it. So that's a big thing for us too. This is where we have like little memberships for group classes. It's not just come in if you can't afford private lessons, see you later. There's different options, and someday you could maybe afford this, or someday you could swing that by, but there's still something for you to do. So even that nightclub dances, or at least do one round and then a scholarship, should be available for everyone. And no, you can't always spend that much money if you grad out of school.
Or you got to invest $6,000 in a dress. That's where kind of the juvenile got it a little bit correct. Where I think they kind of should put that into the newcomer and bronze and silvers, where they kind of have a dress code.
I like that
because that's what kind of allows kids to afford to dance with. The dresses are like they're not as expensive as what you're paying. They're clean. They've got they look really cool on the floor. And then as they get better and older, they transition to the more dresses. But I also think the newcomers as adults should kind of have a similar idea.
I do have to say something though. I want to make sure that we don't leave this point. We're talking about the expensive dresses.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. But if you are already on a level where you should get a dress, because you do want to look the part, you want to have nice tan because the lights, it's not because we just want everyone to look orange. It's the lighting there that just makes the muscle look more defined. It's not because we're trying to look Latin. I know there's a big conversation about this. I never thought about it. It's not that. I think it's because of the muscle definition. This is why, in the weight trainers do that too. So to me, that was always the reason. But the hair and the makeup, it is a beautiful sport, and you do want to look the part. You don't want messy hair that's flying around. And with the dresses, sometimes when you are at that level where you have to get a dress and people buy a cheaper dress, or they rent online a cheaper dress that doesn't fit them well, and then they struggle and pull everything up, and that is not good. So you went cheaper, but that dress was not made for you. So once our students become a certain level where they need to start looking the part, where they're in a higher level of competitors,
make the investment in the dress.
We talk about getting their dress. And most companies, and we were sponsored by Linique.
Yeah.
Thank God, I love them.
Yeah.
But most of our students go with Linique. And so once they're done with the dress, Linique helps them sell it, and they have money towards the next dress. So you're not just throwing your money away. So it's an investment, but you see it coming back to you. But they feel great, and feeling great in your dress. And I remember I had an experience where I did not feel great in my dress, and that was the last time that I went to that person. But that's a lot of it. You walk on the floor and you want to feel amazing, and you don't want to have to think about pulling something up. You want to dance to the fullest, and you have beautiful people on the floor that feel great, that feel sexy. As a woman, you come out to a big competition like Emerald Ball, you want to feel amazing. So that part of it is a big deal.
If you look at
about newcomers. That's
Yeah.
a whole different situation. So you do want to make sure that you look the part. And to me, doing my hair and makeup was stressful. I we would fight because I was too stressed about the perfect way I was going to do my hair. I hate it. My makeup is a little easier, but my hair, that's when I started going and getting my hair done
Yep.
and my makeup done because it took away the stress. But again, do it to your ability. Make sure you're on the right level, make the right decisions. And it's up to us as coaches to put our student onto the right direction.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said that. I wasn't
No.
against all dresses.
No.
Right. The curtains that you buy have to fit the window that you have.
Yeah.
It's window
That's
dressing.
Yeah. So make sure when, look in the mirror and you like what you see. If the shirt is too tight, it's not going to give you a good look on the floor. Put a shirt that is out and you can
can
dress,
move in.
make layers. If there's different ways you can dress yourself up. So when you're on the floor, you look the part and you feel good when you want to move.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Moving on.
Yeah. So before we end today, I do want to give you guys some shout outs and some opportunities to talk about the things that you're doing. So I mentioned at the beginning, owners of Dance Daly Ballroom, and then you are the co-organizers along with your partner, Eddie Stutz, of the San Antonio Classic. Now, obviously, San Antonio Classic is normally the first weekend in August, and this year did not happen, but we're gearing up for 2021.
Yes, absolutely. So our first year was last year.
Yeah.
So we only had it 1 year. And this is actually a huge thanks to our friend Eddie, who, he bought the competition. Things didn't work out with the partner, or she couldn't do that at the moment, which she was a judge at our competition. We love her. But he called us and let us know. And we're like, we're in. So thankfully, he did a lot of the base work before we got there.
Yeah, he did a lot of the work.
So I always want to say he is the owner, and we are thankfully there as well. So our first year, we bought in April. The competition happened August 3rd, and it was extremely fun.
Yeah,
it was so fun. It's a 1-day competition. It was a few blocks away from Riverwalk in San Antonio. We had too much fun.
Yeah,
we went
had
out.
A party bus on the night before, took them out to dinner, the students.
Yeah, we had a blast. And then we had a gala. We had Alexi and Natalie. They were 9 dance champions. They did a show for the gala, and it was a full day.
It's a gala, by the way.
We're not going to do this right now. But it was a lot of fun, a lot of work, but it was great. On the day, we just had a great time.
Yeah, we made a lot of fun, and that was the main thing.
So
it was a fun competition.
Yeah, we were very sad that it did not happen this year. But at first we had to make a judgment call, and it was more about safety, and just we weren't sure how things were going to work. We weren't sure it was going to happen. And then we realized, it was definitely not going to happen. Even if we would have said yes, it still would not have happened. So we made the right call. But it was sad. Yeah, it was last week. It would have been August 1st. So we were posting a lot of memories. And what's great to see is a year later, a lot of the students and the studios and the pro-am teachers that were there, they were posting that they missed it.
That was awesome.
That was really cool. And they contacted us like, are you guys doing it? We want to be there. And I was overwhelmed with that. That was really, really cool because people remembered it. And so I want to say bigger and better in 2021. It will be August 7th this time.
So everybody out there, mark your calendars, August 7th, 2021.
And the host on the Riverwalk this one. So yeah.
Very excited. Very excited.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a mark of a really fun competition when folks a year later are posting that as memories. Because I've definitely been to competitions that have not gotten that treatment. So I think that speaks to what you guys are doing if folks are sharing that out a year later. So that's awesome.
With us, the two of us, obviously, because we just had this whole conversation, and same thing with Eddie is all three of us have a studio. deal with pro-ams on a daily basis. We dance with pro-ams. We talk to them a lot, that we know, what they're looking for, I hope. And so that made it easier for the three of us to know what our goal is.
Mhm.
We were all on the same page as far as what the competition was. And it happened to have couples, that were higher level. There was things there that we didn't even really push for. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
But our biggest thing was fun. It was just enjoying ourselves. It wasn't taking it too serious. I mean,
Making it prestigious too much. So.
we were at a meeting at the hotel a few months before the competition, and Eddie asked the guy, he was like, "Oh, can I have an ice cream break?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? What? Ice cream? You need ice cream?" He goes, "Yeah, I love ice cream." Okay, sure. Let's go. That was amazing. That was so fun.
Everyone loved the ice cream
Just
break.
a little break in the middle of the day, and everyone went and made themselves, ice cream sundaes, and it was a blast. And I thought it was more going to be like for the kids. No, the adults loved it. Loved it. We're raving about it. So it's little things like that. So I can't take credit for that idea, because I was like, really? Ice cream, really?
Popcorn machine, because he likes popcorn.
Yeah, he wanted popcorn. But
So,
that's awesome. It's because it's the experience that matters. That's what you remember, not exactly how you danced and exactly how you placed. And placement helps and all that stuff. The words help, but that's not really the big deal there. It's did you make friends? Did you make friends with other people that live? We are able to be friends with anyone around, at least United States. Like, I know that if we move somewhere, doesn't matter
people.
where, we'll be able to be okay. So, because we know someone everywhere. So it's the experience.
Definitely building relationships instead of just going, competing and leaving. So we do want our competition to be more of definitely, family fun or just student fun kind of idea, where everyone kind of gets to know each other.
We had dinner the night before for a lot of the students went, the people on packages that were arrived early enough. And we, again, I hate saying this, so it was Eddie's idea, but we had party buses. And that was hilarious and great and wonderful. And everyone couldn't stop talking about it, even now. So,
and he had a stripper pole in there, and I tell you,
okay, Jason had too much fun. He was the only one on it.
I was not. I just started it, and then it was game on for everybody. So,
but other than that, music and just chit chatting and dancing around we had songs that everyone knew. It was easy and it was great. And then dinner, and everyone got to know each other. It was great.
What was also fun was, I saw the advantage of it. We would do rhythm and Latin mixed, so that way people wasn't if they did a lot of entries, they wasn't dying on the floor. It actually was great because you actually saw people who don't normally interact with each other interact. So it was actually, they made friends through different styles who they normally don't see because they're on different days.
That's a good point.
So like on a one day where we mixed it, that was for me a bonus that you don't normally get with a 3 day, because you kind of see all your standard people and don't even know who they are because they're not part of the smooth group. So with a mixture, we actually started seeing them actually meet new people.
They all make friends.
Yeah, so that was for me a positive of a 1 day is what I saw. So
the one thing that we had that we couldn't have right now is a full ballroom the whole time. So from the very morning after breakfast was served, we had country, Western, and it was already full floor. Like, it was already a full ballroom of people watching and cheering. Everyone was cheering for each other. It was crazy. It was like a studio team match, but a competition. It was really high energy the whole time. Like, it was a constant go, go, go. I miss it.
Well, something to look forward to next year. I think that's really cool that you mentioned that you mixed the standard and the smooth and the Latin and the rhythm, because with my students, because they primarily do American style now, if it goes rhythm and then Latin is the next block, most of my students head out of the ballroom as soon as they're done dancing. So even though they're back to back on a 1 day event, you still see that shift of who's competing and who's not competing. So I think intermixing it is really great, especially for new students, because then they get exposed to the other styles that they're not dancing.
Yeah. This, I mean, no matter how high level their dancing is or what their goals are, it's still social. It's social for them. This is what we're missing this year, but this is why this is really important. Dancing is important for people.
Interaction.
But it's social interaction. So the more people that they meet, the better it is. They have friends. They could Facebook each other later on.
Exactly.
And I mean, I know people that talk to someone from across the country and plan their competitions together so they could hang out after that. Yeah, that's great. That's what we're about.
It's a great environment for people to meet, so I think it's good.
Definitely. Any exciting news as far as the studio goes? I saw some Facebook photos of a renovation or an expansion happening.
Yes, we're that crazy. No, we ended up in a great position.
We're very fortunate. So.
We must say that our landlords at our plaza are
fantastic.
Great. They're really good. And they did this smart thing where the places that were empty, they made it as a pop-up. So you could rent it for a short term. And so that's the greatest way to try and see if that's something that we want. Our studio is like a bittersweet right now situation with us. Unfortunately, 2 studios that were near us that are great friends, they had to close down due to COVID. So that left a lot of teachers without a home. And we were really hoping to maintain just a small studio feel. We're just our staff. We love our staff. Guys, don't take this too seriously. It's still going to be hard on you. But we have the most amazing staff. We have 3 people on staff. We have a married couple, Joe and Sasha. They do international Latin. Sorry. And we have Bailey, and then her partner practices with her a lot. They do American Rhythm. And we just love the atmosphere that they create with us. But we wanted to have space for some of these teachers who don't have a home.
Because we were independent one time ourselves, so
we've done it.
We've done it for years. Side of it as well.
One of the biggest things is when we were independent, after we stopped working for a studio, Pat West gave us a home at her studio. So we were renting space from her for a long time, since 2011. So we wanted to give back to her teachers, especially, and some of the teachers from Dance United. Not all, because especially because of COVID, we can't just invite everyone in. We only have a few people on a floor at a time. We have a very strict rule in that. So this landed at a great time for us. We decided to try this pop-up, and we got a great deal. I'll be very honest. You can't get better than that. So we went for it. Renovations are
hopefully open by
fast.
Hopefully Wednesday or Thursday it'll be open and ready to go.
So it's going really fast. We literally started this like a week and a half ago. But this way we have another floor, we have space, we still create the atmosphere of a small studio, but we have a few independents, and they're super respectful. And the people that are in our studio are good friends that we've had for years that work well with our teachers. This was our main thing, making sure the teachers, this is their home. Everyone else is invited into our home. But they've been great. It's been working really well. So
fingers crossed on that one.
This was a crazy time to do this, but when it falls into your hand, you can't say no to a good opportunity. So we're doing it.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Well, that's exciting. That's exciting. Well, hopefully everything is positive and everything goes well. I might have there we are. Hopefully we will be celebrating with you guys in August of next year at the Classic. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. So thank you again to Sveta and Jason. We may have just lost them. But thank you guys so much. If you want to follow Dance Daly Ballroom, or if you want to find out more about the San Antonio Classic, those links are in the description below this episode right now, so you can follow them either on their website or on Facebook. Once again, I'm Samantha with Love.Live.Dance. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have not already, do please hit the subscribe button, post something in the comments positive, what you liked about this episode, what you learned, because there was a lot of great information that we covered. And as always, stay positive, stay safe, and I hope to see you dancing very soon.